Welcome to Eliminating Caregiver Chaos, the podcast where we stop pretending caregiving is just about the tasks and start dealing with the real weight you're carrying, the emotional one. I'm DJ Castilleja, and I help family caregivers stop drowning in guilt, resentment, and burnout by teaching them how to actually process their emotions instead of just pushing them down and hoping for the best. Now, before we dive in, I want you to know this podcast is designed specifically for you, the caregiver on the go. Whether you're driving to yet another doctor's appointment, folding laundry, prepping meals, or stealing a few minutes in your car before you walk back into the chaos, I've got you. You don't need to sit down with a notebook or be in the perfect headspace. Just listen. Let this sink in while you're doing what you need to do. Today, we are going somewhere a lot of caregivers have never been able to put into words. It's just not talked about enough. We are going to talk about what happens when anxiety stops being an occasional visitor and becomes your permanent address. We know that anxiety and worry come with the territory of being a caregiver. But what happens when we live in that state day after day? When worry and dread stop feeling like reactions to specific things and start feeling like this is just who I am now. This one is going to name something you have been living with, so let's dive in. I want to start today with a question, and I want you to sit with it honestly before you answer. When was the last time you felt genuinely calm? Not just distracted. Not just busy enough that you stop thinking about everything for a few minutes. Actually calm, settled, at rest in your body and in your mind at the same time. For a lot of caregivers, that question is genuinely hard to answer. And not because they can't remember, but because it has been so long that calm feels almost foreign. Almost like you were another person the last time you were at peace. Almost suspicious, like if things are quiet, something must be wrong. That feeling, that inability to settle down even when you have a moment to, is what we are talking about today, and it has a name. It's called living in a chronic emotional state, and for most caregivers, that's a chronic state of anxiety. Now, let's be clear about what I mean when I use that word. We are not necessarily talking about any clinical anxiety disorder, although for some caregivers, that is absolutely part of the picture that's worth addressing with a healthcare professional. What we are talking about is something that develops gradually in anyone that has been living under prolonged, unrelenting stress without adequate emotional release. The nervous system designed to protect you from danger gets stuck. And over time, what was meant to be temporary alarm system becomes a permanent background hum. And here's how it happens. Remember that we talked about the biology of the stress response. When you feel fear or threat, your body releases chemicals, adrenaline and cortisol. Your heart rate goes up, your muscles tense, your breathing gets faster. Your whole system gets ready to fight, flee, or maybe freeze. And crucially, this response was designed to be temporary, right? That chemical injection in your body was supposed to be for short term. It gets activated, it does its job, and then you're supposed to go back to a baseline. But caregiving is not a temporary threat. It's an ongoing one. The medical appointments do not end. The grief doesn't just resolve. The uncertainty doesn't just go away. The financial pressures just don't disappear. The resentment, the guilt, the fear of losing your loved one, none of that gets neatly resolved and put away. It just keeps coming day after day, week after week, month after month, right? We're always looking forward to that next moment of chaos that's going to pop into our lives. And here's what happens to your nervous system under that kind of sustained pressure. It stops cycling between alarm and rest. It just stays in a constant state of alarm because it has learned through repeated experience that in your environment, the threat never really goes away. So why would it stand down? Why would it rest? Your nervous system is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is keeping you on high alert. It is trying to protect you. But the cost of that protection over months and years is enormous. The cost is that anxiety becomes your default setting. And here's what that actually looks like in a caregiver's daily life, because I want to make sure that this is real and specific for you, not something that's just an abstract idea. Think about it. You wake up in the morning already bracing before your feet hit the ground, before anything has actually happened. There is already a low level dread sitting in your chest, like something bad is about to happen, even when nothing specific has happened yet. You can't fully relax even when you have a moment. Maybe your loved one is asleep. Maybe you have an hour to yourself, and instead of feeling relief, you feel restless, uneasy, like you should be doing something, like the quiet is suspicious, like you are waiting for the other shoe to drop. Sometimes you even feel guilty for taking a rest. Your mind scans constantly for what could go wrong next. You run through the worst case scenarios in your mind, not because you are a pessimist, but because your nervous system has been trained to stay on alert. It is always asking, what is the next threat? What am I missing? What haven't I prepared for? You startle easy. Your phone rings and your heart jumps before you even see who it is, because every call has felt like it could be the call. You know, that next emergency, or your loved one's gone to the hospital. You have been conditioned to associate certain sounds or notifications with crisis, and that conditioning doesn't just turn off when things are quiet. You have trouble making decisions, even small ones. When your nervous system is chronically activated, your brain's capacity for calm, rational decision making gets compromised. Things that should feel simple, like what to have for dinner, what appointment should you schedule first, can feel overwhelming because your mind is already running at full capacity, managing the perceived threat. You feel irritable without a clear reason. The chronic activation of your stress response keeps your emotional threshold very low. There is no buffer left, so the smallest things land harder than they should. You snap at people you love, not because you want to, but because your nervous system is shot. It's already maxed out. And here's one of the most disorienting parts of living in chronic anxiety. The calm moments start to feel uncomfortable. It's been so long and so far gone that when you actually have peace and quiet, it feels awkward. You have been in high alert for so long that when things actually quiet down, it doesn't feel like relief. It feels like something's wrong. It feels unsafe. Maybe you feel guilty because your nervous system has recalibrated what normal feels like. And normal now means anxiety. Normal now means vigilance. Normal means bracing for the next chaos. This is the trap of chronic emotional states. Once an emotion like anxiety gets activated often enough and consistently enough, it stops feeling like a reaction to something specific. It starts feeling like your personality, like this is who you are now. Like this is just what your life is going to be like from now on. And that is where the real danger lives. Not in the anxiety itself, but in the moment you stop questioning it. The moment you accept it as just the way things are going to be from now on. Because when you stop questioning it, you also stop looking for a way through it. So let's talk a moment about how you get through it. The first and most important step is the one we've already been practicing together in the last several episodes: identifying and naming the chronic emotions that have taken up residence in our cup, and beginning to process them intentionally through the tools we have been building. Every time you sit down for that 10-minute emotional release and name one thing that is sitting heavy, you are doing something to interrupt that chronic cycle. You are giving your nervous system a small signal that it's okay to release some of what you've been holding on to. You are not solving everything in 10 minutes, but you are beginning to chip away at the weight that has been accumulating over time, keeping you stuck in overdrive. Every time you reach out to that trusted person in your life and let yourself be heard, you are releasing oxytocin, signaling safety to your nervous system and beginning to break down the pattern of isolation that chronic anxiety feeds on. Every time you move your body after an emotional release, you are giving your stress hormones the physical outlet they were designed for and completing the biological cycle your nervous system has been leaving unfinished. None of these things will flip a switch and make the anxiety just disappear overnight. That is not how it works. These emotions built up over time and they release over time. But here's what I want you to hold on to. The direction you are moving is more important than the speed. Every intentional step toward processing what you're carrying, every small act of emotional release is moving you in the right direction. Away from chronic anxiety, that's your default, towards something that's more sustainable, something steadier and calmer, something that actually feels like the real you. If you have been living in chronic anxiety for a long time, you might have started to believe that this is just who you are now, that the person you were before caregiving, the one that could laugh freely, feel joy, you might feel like that person's gone, that this anxious, depleted, always on version of yourself is permanent. But I'm here to tell you it is not. That person is not gone. They're just buried underneath all the weight. And that weight begins to lift through the practices we have been building, through genuine connection, through the 10-minute emotional release, through finally giving your emotions somewhere to go. When we do this, our joy, our happiness, our laughter, our real selves will begin to come back. Not all at once, but steadily. The capacity for calm returns when the cup starts to empty. The ability to feel joy comes back when the chronic anxiety stops being the only signal our body knows how to send. You are not broken. You are not permanently changed. You are a person whose nervous system has been doing its best it can under these impossible conditions. And now you are learning to give it what it actually needs to come back to baseline. That is what this work is all about. Not fixing what is wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you. It's about releasing what has been accumulating so that who you actually are can come back to the surface. So here's the action step for this week. I want you to just notice when the chronic anxiety shows up. Don't judge it. Don't try to make any corrections. Don't try to push it down. Just name it. This is my nervous system in alarm mode. This is the new chronic state that I'm in. This is not who I really am. This is what has been built up over time, because awareness is always the first step. You cannot interrupt a pattern you haven't named yet. And once you name it, you have already begun to loosen its grip. I hope today's episode put words to something you have been living with for a long time. And I hope it gave you some hope, because what has built up over time can also be released over time. And that's not a small thing. That is everything. And if you're ready to go deeper with this work, if you want real structured, supported guidance as you begin to release what's been building up, visit us at eliminatingcaregiverchaos.com. Our membership exists for this exact reason, and I would love to have you there. If today's episode helped you, please hit subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another caregiver who needs to hear this. You would be amazed how many people are living right now in that chronic state of anxiety and have no idea that there's a way out. We will see you next time. Until then, the chaos doesn't have to be permanent. We're eliminating it together. Take care of yourself out there, and I'll see you next time.